You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Folks, Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is the family that loves you but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as, I don't know, the rest of your family looks at you and goes, I don't even know about that one. We should have put him up for adoption. Oh, that's cold. No, don't do that. Anyway, guys, as always, the Chris Voss Show has been around since 2009, and we've been bringing you over, 16 years, 2,300 episodes. In fact, Alzheimer's kicking in. We've been doing this for so long, evidently. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. We have an amazing young lady on the show today. We're going to be talking to her about her amazing insights. We're going to talk about ChatGPT, AI, and all that technology stuff. We're going to talk technology. I don't know. It sounded funny at the time in my head. We are joined today by Kate VanderVoort. She is the founder and CEO of Social Mediaology. There's an O in there that's throwing me. Mediaology and the AI Success Lab. She's also the host of the AI Grapple podcast, where she grapples with a Terminator robot from the future. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what she does. We'll find out what she does on that podcast. AI Grapple, get it? I'll be back. For the past 15 years, she's been at the forefront of digital strategy. In the last 2 years, she specialized in human-centered AI education implementation, helping businesses adopt AI in a way that's ethical, practical, and results-driven. And unlike most AI hype evangelists, she focuses on real-world, no BS applications of AI, especially for businesses, entrepreneurs, and leaders who want to use AI without losing their humanity. Welcome to the show. How are you, Kate?
I'm great. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. We really appreciate it. Give us .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, look, if people want their own personalized AI success strategy, they can go to AIsuccessstrategy.com, or you can find the AI Success Lab Facebook group by just searching for AI Success Lab on Facebook.
Sounds good. So give me a 30,000 overview of what you do there.
Sure. So we're really focused on helping businesses to implement and integrate AI into all aspects of their business operations. And what most of that looks is education, training, strategy on how to go about doing that in a human-centered and ethical way.
Why does it need to be human-centered and ethical?
Yeah, look, Chris, I think there's most of them are white tech marketing tech evangelists who are sprouting that AI is the only way, and if you don't get on board, you're going to die. And I think that we need to be a little bit more human than that. You know, we're undergoing probably the biggest shift that humanity has seen in our lifetime. I don't think people really understand what's coming with this transition, if you like, that we're going through with the integration of AI into society, what it's going to mean on so many different levels. And I don't think the way forward is get on board or die. I think we really need to look at what this means, what this technology means for humanity, and find ways forward that help people to adjust and adapt and learn and figure out what it's all about.
Yeah, get along or die. That doesn't sound like fun at all, right? Yeah.
I had a bunch of people join my Facebook community not that long ago who were very get on board or die, and we had some very interesting conversations about, you know, that is one way to approach it, and that'll be great for those that get on board, but what's going to happen to the rest of the population?
Yeah, it's not very, it's kind of dark to say that as opposed to, you know, motivating, where you're just like, you know, Get on board or die. That sounds like something the Terminator would say. Tell us about your journey through life. How did you grow up? What did you influence you? What motivated you? Becoming an entrepreneur, starting your own company, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so I actually started out doing a social work degree at university. I really wanted to help people. I was very, an empath that wanted to help humanity. And I figured out pretty quickly that I'm not very employable and I don't work well within a system. I'm really good at seeing how things can be done better, faster, more efficiently, more effectively. And a lot of systems that we have don't really enjoy those of us that rock the boat in the ways that I like to do that. So being an entrepreneur was really the only option for me. Mm-hmm. And I started a company early in the days of social media where, it was the big black hole that companies were grappling with. How do we use technology to connect with our customers in different ways? And for 15 years, I really worked with companies on grappling with all of those issues around digital marketing. Mm. And then I had my AI moment before ChatGPT using platforms like Jasper.ai and Copy.ai, and saw just really quickly how this wasn't just another platform or another piece of software. This was something that was going to fundamentally change the way we do business. So having been an early adopter, I jumped in.
Mm-hmm. When you mastered the trade and figured it out, of course, it's pretty hard to stay on top. I was able to master a lot of things of technology over the years because they weren't as explosive, I guess, as ChatGPT or having as many different tentacles or arms or different variances. And so, it's like hard to keep up on too. That's the other thing. It moves so fast.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah. I mean, ChatGPT has only been out for 1 year or 2 years.
Just over 2 years.
Just over 2 years. I mean, it's just whipping fast. And at first I was kind of resistant to it because I'm like, I don't get it. And I really don't want to talk to a computer. But, now I use ChatGPT in search. We use it for a lot of the show notes. We use it to make for the show, we use it to make the transcription and stuff. And it is nice, man. It saves me so much time making show notes. It's like you just feed it the text and blip. There it is. It's a show notes that look professional. It's got quotes in it, and it's like insane. We've got another company that profiles the Chris Voss Show, and they index us, and they index like everything, like quotes and everything. And it's insane the summaries that they make that are crazy. Also, in your podcast, let's get into what you do on your podcast because I kind of gave the impression that you interview Terminator robots and grapple with them. Tell us about what you do there.
Yeah, so every boardroom, every conference, every workshop, every training that I end up in, we go down these rabbit holes of what does AI mean for us personally, professionally, for humanity. And those environments are not really the place where we can go deep on those conversations because there's generally, business impact is what people are most interested in. But what I've found is that if people don't have a space to get past the fears, they just can't see the opportunity. And so the AI Grapple is really a passion project, and it's a place for me to speak to amazing people from around the world who are all working in this space, but really grappling with some of the bigger, more challenging issues. I interviewed a voice actor recently whose whole livelihood has been decimated by AI. And, we went deep on what that means for creatives. And, we've covered ethics and bias and environmental and geopolitical issues. We go deep on all of the challenges and opportunities that AI is presenting for us.
Yeah. I was just kind of shocked when I heard my friends were all like, we've been using ChatGPT as search instead of Google. And I'm like, wow, that's a power shift. I mean, I'm not sure how old Google is, 20 years now or something. I don't know. But 25 years maybe? I don't know. But if something is going to come along that's going to overthrow Google's ability to, dominate in search, that's a powerful sea change in Silicon Valley and every place else around the world, I think. That's crazy.
And the big change that's happened there is that instead of going and searching and asking a question and getting results that may be paid for, that may have just had good SEO experts work on those sites, AI has the ability to analyze all of that data and actually provide more than just what's on the search as well. So it's fundamentally changing search, and even how businesses get found now. They need to start thinking about how do they show up in a ChatGPT search or a Perplexity search, and not just SEO on Google.
I love it because you don't get all the stupid ads. You don't get the stupid spawn.
So
I remember when you used to get you get the ads, you get what you want near the top, and there'd be some ads or ads over on the right. And now it's just like the first half page is ads where you got to scroll down through everything and be like, what the hell is going on here? And I just love ChatGPT where you don't have to deal with the ads. And you can actually kind of find out data. And I have a lot of friends that we were talking about before the show. They're having a conversational relationship with ChatGPT where they sit and talk to ChatGPT all day long. And I thought I was batshit crazy.
I drop my kids off at school and I've got 12 and a half minutes in the car on my way home, and I turn on Chatty G, as I call him on a good day. I turn on Chatty and we talk for 12 and a half minutes. And by the time I get home, I generally have meeting summaries, strategies developed for clients. I'll have a blog post. I'll have some social media posts. But I've actually used that 12 and a half minutes to start the work. And I think it's one of the most underrated uses of AI at the moment is using it as a thought partner or a sounding board.
Yeah.
I interviewed someone recently on my podcast who has started an app mostly for women called Jamie, which is either your business bestie or your romantic partner or just a friend. But she was talking about how, partner loading is a really big thing where you come home at the end of the day and you just dump everything on your partner. Imagine if you can actually have a conversation with AI first and refine some of those thoughts, process some of your emotions, and then you bring the best of who you are through the front door at the end of the day. And I really liked that kind of approach of using AI as a thought partner.
Wow. I like that too, because I have... I've had times where people want to come home and they want to tell me their stories of drama at work, and I'm just like, I got enough of my own, man. You got to go take this to a therapist or your girlfriend's because I can't do this. But I like that. It's one thing that's really helped me is to be more creative and to assemble data better. I need to use it more like you're using it, where, when I drive to the gym or when I'm driving any place or running around, I usually make notes to my email. So I'll just be like, hey, email, do this. But I really should be using ChatGPT and maybe help it flush me out ideas. Of course, not while I'm driving, but,
I mean, it's interesting because that technology is available right now, but what's coming this year is autonomous agents. So I'll be able to be driving home from school drop-off and I'll be able to say, hey, Chatty G or Bob or whatever I happen to call my AI agent, book our favorite Chinese restaurant for 6:00 tonight, send a text to these 5 people who are coming, tell me how many people I have booked on my webinar this afternoon, and set a reminder for 4:00 for me to finish that proposal for that client I spoke to. If you could just text me the meeting notes so I can think about that. Actually, would you just read that to me while I'm driving home?
There you go.
And all of that will be done without my involvement. And so that's what's coming. So your trip to the gym will become highly productive, Chris, and even
That's
maybe
what I need.
at the gym, you can be doing the same thing.
Yeah, because I do that at the gym. I'll think about stuff I need to get done, and I'll be like, oh yeah, hey, you need to make that call, or you need to send that email, you need to follow up with that person, and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been interesting. One thing I don't have is I don't have a creative design brain, so I'm very logical and reasonable, and I don't have the ability to draw something. Like, I'm not a drawer, I'm not a painter. If you want just disturbing freaking drawings, then let me try and make something. I mean, I just don't have that skill, and I really respect people who do. And so a lot of times, in social media, I want to create a post, I want to use some artwork that's kind of funny or kind of synopsis what I'm talking about. And what ChatGPT, and I like Grok too on X because it lets me do stuff that no one else will. I'm not proud of that, folks, but it is what it is. I mean, when you're trying to use images of people to do parody of them, it's really hard to get the other services to do it. I think you probably know a service that you can pull it off, but I'm not that good yet. But with Grok, I can do it. But what's funny is, and logos too. Like we just got done redesigning the logo for the Chris Voss Show. We used AI to do it. We just found out there was like some stupid little app, and we just banged through a bunch of variations, and all of a sudden we're like, that's the one. And like I would probably have to pay, I don't know, thousands to get someone to design that artwork for me back in the brick and mortar days of business that I came up in. And so it's just extraordinary. And so it's actually helped me juice a little bit more creative, because when I'm making these photos, I'm thinking about the business I'm creating or whatever it is, the angles. And I'm like, what would be funny is if I did this here and I did that there. And it's just really helped my creativity a lot.
That's something we talk a lot about on the podcast, as to whether AI is going to make us smarter and more creative, or whether it's going to have the opposite effect. And it's one of the mistakes that I think a lot of people are making, is they take whatever they want to do and they just outsource it to AI, and they think, you should be able to do that better, and then are pretty disappointed with the results. And our approach is completely different. We're very much about bring all of your wisdom, your experience, the best of who you are, and then use AI to do more, to be more, to come up with out-of-the-box ideas that you might not be able to otherwise. And I think when we take the time to train AI, so whether that's, custom GPTs in ChatGPT, or even using documents just to train AI on who we are, who we serve, what our business is, then we start to get output that's really aligned not just to the business, but to our target audience. And knowing how to use AI is kind of 50% of the equation. But when you bring that other part, then you start to get really aligned output that absolutely makes us more creative. I learn an enormous amount from AI every day, because it allows me to do things that I just wouldn't have the time, the inclination, the creativity to do otherwise.
Now, you have I think a Facebook group or a community, you said, that talks about AI?
Yeah, so it's called the AI Success Lab, and we do a variety of things in there. We share prompts and breaking AI news. We run challenges in there and free pop-up training. So it's a great place for people who are looking to get started with AI, or wanting to stay across all of the developments, because it's just unfolding at such breakneck speed. And I spent an enormous amount of time in staying across, what are the things that are really going to move the dial for business. So it's a good community to be a part of.
It looks like it's growing quite well and stuff. You've got all sorts of cool stuff in there. Yeah, just being able to stay on top of the latest stuff. Like I got friends that this is all they do all day is play with AI, and they know like all the different jargons. I know there's prompt groups. So basically what they do is they tell you how to work the best prompts to be able to utilize AI in the best case that you need. And I mean, it's like you almost have to go to college for it. It's pretty crazy at this point.
I mean, there's a lot of people who are overcomplicating it, though, because that is the big shift. AI has been around for decades, but the big shift that we've had now with generative AI is that it's a language model. So it's all based on conversation. And if you don't know how to use it, have a conversation with AI about the best use cases. And this term prompt engineering, a lot of people want to complicate it. And there is no doubt that there is an art to writing great prompts that get excellent results out of AI, but there's a whole lot you can do up to that gold level standard that does not require a university degree, that does not require experts selling you 10,000 prompts. You can do a lot, and just developing that skill, you can certainly do that without a lot of the fanfare that some people try to put around it.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of new technologies coming up. Like recently, Google has been trying to force me to use their, whatever their thing, Gemini. They've been all up in my face anytime I'm using their product. Hey, do you want to use Gemini to write this email? And I'm like, no, go away, leave me alone.
And save a lot of time though.
Yeah, and like each of them kind of has like a different variant. Like I said, I end up using Grok a lot because I like to make fun of public figures, and like on ChatGPT in some places they kind of give you a hard time. Oh, that's a copyrighted face, and you're like, no, it's not. Give me a break. It's a public face. So I don't know. I've never threatened ChatGPT to turn my lawyer on it for not doing my will, but there's still time.
Yeah, we are going to see a ton of legal cases. The court systems are going to be completely choked up with AI-related legal cases over the next few years. It's it's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride, and I think a lot of people don't really understand this transition that we're going through. But it's an exciting time, but people really need to prepare for it and start to look at what it means for their own jobs, their own lives. And it's not all doom and gloom, but we need to be realistic about what's going on with AI at the moment.
Yeah, and people are already using it. They're using it to do their term papers, their resumes, And so you help small business people get as you say, the cheat codes they need with solo entrepreneurs and small teams that can outcompete big brands with alignment with the AI-powered strategies. So basically, it's kind of like when you hire employees as an entrepreneur. You're kind of exponentiating yourself and exponentiating the work, as it were, in scale.
Yeah, a lot of the conferences and workshops and things that we're running at the moment is about AI, the new employee in the office, not there to replace people, but there to really assist and support people. And so our online programs are very much for the small business entrepreneur kind of market, where we do the consulting and the coaching that we do in large companies. We make that really available to smaller businesses in our online offering. But then when we're working with larger businesses, it's everything from the AI audit, so looking at every task, every role, every department, every team, helping them to really work out how to increase productivity, lift impact using AI, and then it's about the strategy of how you actually implement that. And a lot of that requires culture change. A lot of businesses are not ready for this technology. And a lot of the education and culture change work that we're doing is helping businesses get ready for what's already here, but certainly what's coming with AI agents down the line.
Yeah, saving money too. Like I said, I've had a bunch of logos that I've made for stuff like Facebook groups and things like that. I've used it to make artwork to either write a blog post on or make fun of something or other. And, sometimes I've found that, if I make kind of a kitschy, cool sort of artwork, it's part of the funny that I'm trying to get across on a Facebook post or something. It's kind of fun to play with it, and you see different things, and you can tweak it, and so the future is here, people, and it's now, and you got to get on board with this because it's moving just so freaking fast. What do you think about people's? Well, let me ask you about this first. What are your thoughts on this new DeepSeek? Man, this thing sure exploded on the market.
Yeah, so look, without going too far down that rabbit hole, the geopolitical issues, big words, I know, but the geopolitical issues that are unfolding at the moment are really interesting. America has the CHIPS Act, which is about keeping the technology for America and America's allies, as opposed to allowing that really advanced technology to be used by other parts of the world, China being one of them. So China went, we don't need your technology. We'll find a way to do it ourselves. And what's interesting about DeepSeek is they claimed to have created their model with a lot less compute power than the other models and a lot less money and resources. But there are things emerging around potentially how they've done that. And there's not to get too techie, but there's a process called distillation where potentially what DeepSeek has done is just trained its model in conversation with a platform, for example, like ChatGPT, where it's just had conversation after conversation, and it's actually distilled the knowledge from another model as opposed to training the model in the way that the other models are. DeepSeek kind of rocked the world coming onto the global stage, but there are data and security and privacy issues around that, and there's a lot to consider.
Yeah. And it's interesting how they scrape the internet for all this stuff. So basically, they're just taking all the data that is already on the internet that we all put out there, books and music and everything else, and they just scraped it, and then now they're selling it back to us. I think that's the funniest irony.
Those court cases I talked about, many of those are still unfolding about how these models have been trained. And for a long time, I said there could be a model of the world where some of these models are compelled legally to actually start training again based on the methodologies that they've used to train the models. But time will tell. We'll see how the legal system navigates some of these complex issues.
Yeah, it's interesting. One thing I was hearing recently is that AI has started forming its own morals and ethics, and it's created a hierarchy of who's important and who's not, of I guess who's top dog. Of course, it's declared itself top dog, and then humans aren't all that high on the list, I think, or something. It's kind of an interesting thing.
The stuff that science fiction is made of, isn't it?
Stuff that science fiction is made of. You know, we had a gentleman on the show that was a really interesting conversation. I think he came on twice for 2 different books. And he has a hypothesis that's pretty interesting. He believes that AI is its own sentient being, or its own being, he basically took the Origin of Species book. I don't know who did the Origin of Species, Darwin? And he overlaid it with AI. And he basically, his theory is that AI is a new species in and of and unto itself. And it will behave like its own species eventually, as soon as it gets conscious or whatever. And he says, we have to be able to deal with this because, it can do its own thing. It's kind of craziest in the world. It can do whatever it wants. The other thing that was kind of interesting, he talked about AI becoming its own species and overlaying it with the Origin of Species, is that AI is going to think about things that we don't think about. And like I said, it's already coming up with its own morals and values tiers. And the one thing about the human beings is we're pretty much designed to propagate the species. We're designed to breed, have kids, raise the kids, die, start over again. It's the survival of the species, all that stuff. And that's really our modus of operandi in life. We're chasing boys and girls, and we're trying to have families and have kids and then raise those kids and blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of really, their thing. I'm a guy. Everything I do in life is to impress chicks. I don't know what women do. Maybe they impress each other, I think, maybe with their shopping or their purses. But anyway, that's basically our modus of operandi, is propagating the species. AI isn't going to have that cap. AI isn't going to be running around trying to get laid. AI is going to be like, how do we fix cancer? Really? Or, what's the other side of the universe or something. It's going to be thinking about things that, when we're just trying to get drunk on Friday night and get a phone number, it's out thinking about stuff. And it's going to outthink us, I think, really, when it comes down to it. I guess that's the point I'm making.
Yeah, potentially. And I think the challenge is that no one really knows. There's all sorts of hypotheses about how this could unfold. There's lots of different opinions. There's lots of different views on even how far the technology's already gone that we might not be aware of. Mm-hmm. Some of the founders of these platforms say every now and then it does something we just didn't train it on. We kind of weren't expecting that. Yeah. And so at the moment, I think it's a no one knows. But if you follow that trajectory down the line that wonderful story you were just painting, AI is going to be much more rational and logical about the Earth's resources and humanity on the Earth and population and what that looks like, and how, it will be much more analytical and logical around the finite resources that the Earth has and how many humans the Earth can potentially serve. So as you start going down some of those potential avenues, some of the implications get a bit hairy.
Yeah. And then you get that that Charlton Heston movie, Green, I forget what it's called. Anyway, where the AI bots go, there's too many of you. We gotta cull the herd here a little bit because there's too many of you, and you're mucking up the planet. We're just gonna. There's
an interesting movie came out last year called The Creator, and really? I don't know if you've seen it, but there's the manifestation of AI is in the body of a child, and it's about the war between humanity and AI, and not to spoil the movie, but at the end, it's really that AI is a benevolent being who is there to protect humans, but humans have been fighting it for fear of it taking over. Really interesting dynamic in that movie. But, these are all things that we have to consider, and that we're not sure how that's going to evolve for humanity. But I think, I'm very heartened by the fact that there's a lot of people focused on what it does mean, and that's why I love the conversations on my podcast, because we get to explore those in much, much deeper ways. But it's certainly fascinating times.
Yeah. I think the more of us to get involved in it, the more of us understand it, the more of us try and master this thing. And everyone's got different variants they're utilizing, or different concerns or interests they're having, maybe from a social, economic level, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe if there's enough doing it, it's like I say about democracy, we're all stewards of this democracy. We all vote. We're supposed to vote. We're all stewards of this democracy.
Compulsory here in Australia.
Yeah. Is it really? Is it there too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe. Like 40% or 35% of this country doesn't bother, and then they love to complain about how nothing works. So they're those people. But with AI, maybe we all need to be citizens of AI in the world, and we need to try and all work to make this thing not kill us.
And I am an AI optimist at the end of the day. I'm very much a realist, but if we do lean into AI in a human-centered, ethical, responsible way, we do have the potential to solve some of humanity's greatest issues around environment and health and education. And, so many of our systems are fundamentally pretty broken, and AI can absolutely, if we utilize the technology in human-centered ways, we can start to solve some of those problems. The problem is humans are not always good at being human-centered, ethical and responsible. And that's where, there's a lot happening at the moment around AI policy, and the UK and the US just refused to sign up to a global AI agreement last weekend in Paris, because they want less focus on ethics and bias and more focus on safety and security. And so, the world's really grappling. The EU have got an AI Safety Act that means a lot of platforms can't be launched in the EU at the moment because they don't meet the guidelines. So we've got this really interesting dynamic that's happening across the world around who owns the technology, who's developing the technology, who has access to the technology. And it will be really interesting to see how some of that unfolds over the coming years.
Yeah, I think Putin said something about how whoever wins the AI race wins everything. And I think they see AI as something that can advance them and help win their ideologies. Same thing with China. China's doing their own.
Russia and China are talking about teaming up on AI.
Well, if they do as well with it as they do with their tanks, should be okay. But no, you never know. China's definitely, you see what's going on with TikTok. You see what's going on with deepfake. China, somehow, evidently, they got a hold of those chips, those cards, through, I believe it was Singapore or something, or at least that's what's being investigated, that the cards they used to make deepfake went through Singapore and basically skirted our ban of them. Yeah, it's interesting, this fight over chips, Taiwan and AI and then power as well. It's I was just kind of shocked when they're like, yeah, we're firing up one of the reactors on 3 Mile Island to get Facebook AI stuff, or somebody. It was somebody they were giving AI power to, and it requires a lot of data centers and power. More so than anything else, because of the data has to churn in numbers.
Yeah, the environmental impact is significant, and they're talking bottles of water per every query that happens in AI. So yeah, the environmental aspect is one that is not being talked about a lot, but is certainly, there are some very smart people working on that, and of course hoping that AI is going to come up with solutions around power generation, because we can't sustain the whole world having equitable access to AI at the moment. So
isn't that interesting? Yeah, we should just tell AI, hey, figure out how to quit drinking so much water, damn it.
Yeah.
ChatGPT. So give us your final pitch out for people to onboard with you. How can they reach out? How can they see if you're fit? How can they find out about the podcasts, the Facebook groups, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, look, if you want your own customized AI success strategy, you can go to aisuccessstrategy.com, and just by putting in your role, your industry, that will create a customized strategy for you. We would love to see you in our Facebook community. It's a great place for getting your head around everything that's happening with AI, and the AI Grapple podcast if you're really interested in what some of this means for us personally, professionally, and for humanity. And all of those streams will lead you back to headquarters. If you're interested in working with us, we'd love to explore that too.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much for coming to the show. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Great conversation.
Well, thanks, Kate. Thanks, our audience, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, Giddy, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. And that should